This is Woodwind. This is why I love my job. My crew and I have the privilege of sharing this thrill with as many as 48 passengers. Some people ask me why she is called the Woodwind. She is made out of wood, is carried by the wind, and I play and taught wind instruments for 25 years. Let me introduce you to my family. My wife Ellen, my daughter Jen, and me with a full beard. This is our 21-foot sailboat. My wife Ellen and I have been married for 37 years. She taught art in the public schools. I am grateful for her love and courage to leave her profession and be part of a new business. My daughter Jen is 6 years old in these pictures. She is now Captain Jen. She found a place for us to start our business in Annapolis. She did this right after graduating college. Here she is in command of her own small boat. Please look carefully at this picture. This is what is called a framed hull. Much of the information that follows is based on an understanding of this picture. Woodwind is a stripped planked vessel. Think of the frame as the rib cage of a skeleton. The large backbone at the bottom of the hull is the keelson or hog. In this presentation we will call it the hog. The curved timbers that look like ribs are called frames. The floors are not so easy to spot. They are the short timbers which connect or clamp the frames to the hog. The large flat dividing walls are called bulkheads. There is only one plank on the hull at this time. It is the horizontal board that is halfway up between the hog and the top of the hull. Keep those terms, hog, frames, bulkhead, and planks in your mind as John Scrano and I point them out to you.
And then set up the stem has been scarf jointed into the hog, which is supported on this strong back. We will bevel the hog to match the bevels on the stem. After most of the planking has already been installed and we're supporting the boat on its planking, where we can pull out the strong back material and then proceed to put the correct bevel on the hog to take the rest of the planking going aft at that point. And you can see we've got the first 4 of 8 bulkheads installed at this point. The rest of the bulkheads will go on next. After the bulkheads go on, we'll put on some stringers and we'll attach the rest of the 50 frames against those stringers.
What you're looking at is the transom or stern connected to the hog. The timbers running perpendicular to the hog are the floors. They have not been glued down or fastened. They will be later. There's a bulkhead. There are more floors. The openings that are cut into the bulkheads give access into the cabin. John?
Like this.
So that's a frame right there.
This is basically,
that's a floor.
This is the floor. It'll be just like
there
that.
it is. The frames going into the floor are going 90 degrees to the hog. The floors are the clamp. John is now going to explain how the frames are constructed.
These planks with resorcinol glue on both sides, then they'll be stacked up together to make up the total 2.5-inch frame thickness. And that laminate will be set down on this jig, which is just plastic film over the full-scale body plan drawing. And the planks will then be pulled in with bar clamps against the dogs, laid against the lines of the body plan section, and clamped into place, and then lifted off after it's dried tomorrow morning.
Notice the force needed to push the frames into position. What does not show up clearly on this view is that the white plastic you see on the floor is actually clear plastic over a full-scale model drawing of the boat, so that the frames are going to have the exact shape that they need. full-scale drawing was done on the computer that John has, and this kind of drawing using a computer is called CAD, or Computer Aided Design. It's a wonderful program that saves a lot of time. They are now cutting the frames in half, and one half will be the right or starboard side, and the other half will be the left or port side. So you get two frames, one for each side, from each frame that is glued down on the table. The other thing notice is that these men are wearing coats. It's wintertime and it's cold in Albany. Now for a little review. Here's the framed hull. You can see the frames going into the hog, and the floor is clamping the frames to the hog. Now John is going to explain how the boat is planked.
Okay, so we were saying that this is the guide for the master plank. It'll be the first plank that we put on the boat, and it's positioned such that the planks will bend fairly along the full length of the boat with minimal edge set or minimal twisting. So from this point, we'll plank up probably right up to the shear point as the first step in the planking. Maybe a foot on the port side, and then another foot on the starboard side, another foot on port, another foot on starboard until we reach the shear point. At which time we'll take our guide off and continue planking on down. All of the first plank that we put on will be just parallel with this guide, the full length. So what we do is we coat each frame with glue, maybe up 6 inches or so, or as far as we feel that we'll be able to get, for that day. And then we'll bronze fasten the plank as well as screw it to each frame. And then before the next plank goes on, both edge surfaces of the planks are coated with epoxy resin and drawn up tight. And then the adjacent plank is again bronze fastened to each frame on top of the first plank, so that the whole boat, when it's finished, is locked together in a monocoque, rigid, mechanically as well as glue fastened.
The workers here are clamping, gluing, and screwing the planks in place. Now the hull is almost completely planked. The planks on the bottom of the hull will be put in place later. This allows tools and workers to enter the boat without always having to climb a ladder. That plank that you see that's standing up from the others is the master plank. Now that the hull is planked, Bob is fairing the hull with a power planer. This heavy tool weighs about 20 pounds. Imagine how tiring it is to hold that tool over your head as you plane the bottom of the hull. Still, it beats hand planing. Now that the hull is complete, you can see the interior construction. We're looking at the galley area where the cooking is going to be done. This is the settee area you can see next on the left, where people will sit down to eat. On the right is the captain's cabin. Again, this is the settee area where the table is being measured. Now here they're using a Spanish windlass to get that carlin in place. It takes that much force. It's a pretty neat invention. Here the keel is being faired. The keel is hollow. It's made of fiberglass and epoxy resin, and it will be filled with 14,000 pounds of lead, which will act as ballast to keep the boat sailing upright.